Okay, here's what every person needs to know. Undergoing medical testing, such as an MRI, CT scan, anesthesia of any type, to properly detox your body so that the chemicals used during that process don't harm you, even if you didn't feel any of the symptoms. Now, CT scans, MRIs, anesthetics, these all contain toxic chemicals that can build up in the body. Many of these tests use what's called a contrast material. So for the images, such as an ultrasound or CT scan or an MRI, or they're used to improve the diagnostic value of the images that CT scan does, so you can better see a structure inside the body to understand if it has a problem. Now, unfortunately, it does help visualizations, which may help someone in a cancer scenario or a life-threatening scenario. So I'm not saying do away with the testing. I'm saying that using it less often unless absolutely needed, and doing something about these substances that are highly toxic inside the body. Now, there are 5 main ones here that we want to look at. The first one is barium sulfate. It's going to be most commonly a contrast used and swallowed as a liquid, a tablet, or a powder, and you consume it typically orally for a level of an X-ray or a CT scan. Maybe you've done a barium swallow before. Barium is a toxic chemical. There's iodinated dyes. So iodine is used commonly in X-rays and in CT scans. The iodine can aid in seeing real hollow spaces inside of the body, such as a blood vessel or an organ. But injected radioactive iodine, toxic substance. Gadolinium is another big one. This is the key component for MRIs, and it contains a heavy metal. It is a heavy metal. It alters the magnetic properties of nearby water molecules, and that enhances the imaging quality of an MRI. But that itself is now found in a lot of water supplies, and it's found in a lot of human beings, and this is the one that Chuck Norris's wife had at high levels inside of the system. It was creating a lot of her autoimmune related conditions. Number 4 are simply salines or gases that are used. There can be micro bubbles, microspheres that have been used for ultrasound imaging. They're common in heart exams, but you are introducing a gas into the system that is foreign. And then finally, anesthesia. And they're used to control pain, generally in surgeries or for injuries. They affect the functionality of your nervous system. If you've ever had it for a tooth, for example, you can't lose your side of your mouth. It deadens the nervous system, so we know it has a toxic effect, a damaging effect on the nervous system. It has a damaging effect on the brain if you are put under for a procedure. That we know the more anesthesia that's used, longer term can create memory and brain issues. Locally, for stitches, generally for gas inhalation, or regionally like an epidural or an injection. These are the ones to be considering. How can I do less of these? How can I detox from them? So let's start with the friendly bacteria, because whether you're getting an antibiotic or any of these tests, you're damaging the friendly bacteria in the body. The more heavy metals, the more toxins you have in the system, the less friendly bacteria that you have. So friendly bacteria, the important side of it is the friendly bacteria themselves can protect you from the antibiotics and clean up the toxins and the pollutants that wreak havoc on the body. So the friendly bacteria actually prevent you from the medical tests and from the antibiotics themselves. So we want to build those up. Now, there are 3 main types when it comes to the biotics of the body, the bacteria of the body. So let's start with pre, pro, and post. Now, prebiotics are the source of food for the bacteria. So before the biotic, the bacteria actually gets thriving, we want to have enough meals to feed these little armies. And they're made up typically of soluble fibers, so it doesn't impact your blood sugar levels. It helps feed those, and it nourishes the good bacteria in the gut. Soluble fiber is fermented by the gut bacteria that becomes that source for our microbiome. Some food sources of prebiotics themselves, so you can eat more of this and feed more of the good bacteria: onions, leeks, chives, garlics, these types of fibers that help feed it. There's different roots that help, tubers that help. That's the prebiotics we want to be putting to feed the good bacteria. So then we go to pro. This is the one you're probably most familiar with. This is the friendly microbes that live inside our intestines and that are made of the beneficial types of yeasts and bacterias that are found in our gut to help protect us. It's important to get a good dose of them where you can actually take in healthy bacteria, probiotics, into the system, especially during and following antibiotic use or medical testing use, as a lot of the antibiotics knock down and wipe out those good and the bad bacteria that we talked about, okay? Research shows that the use of probiotics during antibiotic treatment decreases the level of antibiotic resistance. It actually allows them to work better. Doctor never told you that one, did they? If we're using prebiotics, we're feeding the good bacteria. We're ingesting in good bacteria with probiotics, especially if an antibiotic or a medical test is killing it. Then there's postbiotics. Now, this is the most important one that you probably haven't heard of. A postbiotic is the bioactive compounds that the probiotics, the bacteria, produce when they consume their food, the prebiotics. So the probiotics, the bacteria, eat the food, the prebiotic, and then they excrete bioactive compounds that are incredibly powerful and important for your body. In fact, many of the health benefits that are linked with pre and postbiotics come from pre and probiotics come from the production of these postbiotics. So why probiotics are so beneficial is because they produce postbiotics. Well, you can consume postbiotics. And research shows many health issues such as GI and colon, lower, deeper down into the system, get support by these. They help bolster the immune system. They decrease digestive issues, especially sensitivities, IBSs, diarrheas, and the risk of these allergies that develop in the gut, of sensitivities to food. They help to lower those. So postbiotics, these three should be used in unison. Pre to feed them, pro to add in more good bacteria, post to get the full benefit of what these bacteria do in our body with these bioactive compounds. Now, a lot of people jump to, yeah, Dr. Livingood, I like it. I like getting prebiotics in, probiotics, and I want them to produce postbiotics. I do yogurt. I wanted to speak specifically to this because there are several reasons why I would advise against yogurt not being a good probiotic source. Number one, there's a lot of added sugars inside of yogurt. For itself, it is lactose, so it's ending in OSE, which means it turns into sugar into your body, but there's oftentimes added sugars to the processing of yogurt. For the taste of it, syrups used, toppings, bottoms added in. So we've got to be very careful of added sugars. Number two, there's oftentimes artificial flavorings or artificial sugars added. And then finally, number three, most of us don't need extra dairy in our system. So I've kind of moved this one out from my smoothies, from really having it at all. And if I am going to have dairy, it might be in an organic sour cream as a topper, or maybe an organic cheese. But I just cut out yogurt because it's extra unneeded dairy. We can easily do a smoothie or something along those lines for breakfast and avoid it. Even Greek yogurt. Now the problem here is, as well, for those that are earth conscious, the process of acidifying the whey and the dairy to make yogurt creates byproduct that can't be dissolved. And it's incredibly acidic for the earth. So the process of Greek yogurt production is actually bad for the environment, let alone your body of getting extra dairy in, which it would have to be from grass-fed cows if you're gonna have it, with no added sugars if you're gonna have it. So we just wanna be very aware of those things. Excuse me. So, avoiding yogurt, what can we start to do to get antibiotics in? Focusing on fermented foods would be a very good idea. Kimchi is an excellent source. Sauerkraut is an excellent source for it. Any kind of fermented beverage, a kefir and a kombucha. You just want to watch your sugar content on those two. those are going to be excellent sources of the probiotics. Okay, the prebiotics, the soluble fibers that we referred to, are a good way to get those in. And the postbiotics is what is produced, but you can supplement with each of these. And that whole formula of pre, pro, and post all combined together is what I've created to be able to get these proper biotics into the system. So you're taking them in, you're stimulating the production of all three, so it helps from production to in the gut to the lower colon all the way through pre, pro, and post. Most probiotics in the market today maybe contain a prebiotic. You'll rarely ever find one that has a postbiotic with it. So you're getting way more benefit of the three of those working together. Now, what I should also note is most probiotics are created from a laboratory, and they are more of a synthetic form, and they're very fragile. So they don't get by the state of the stomach, which is very acidic, and they don't make it into the small intestine, let alone the large intestine, all the way down through. The form of probiotics that do the best are the ones made in nature, right in the soil. And so part of the benefit of gardening and growing your own vegetables is you're working in the soil, and you are getting these microorganisms on your skin and on your food. And when you take those in, those are excellent sources of pre, pro, and postbiotics, your own real vegetables. So overwashing them kind of removes some of those benefits. So it's a great way to get these biotics in, but these are soil-based organisms. Soil-based probiotics are more shelf stable. So when they're in transit or on the shelf, or when they get into your body, they're more stable. They make it past the stomach, into the small intestine, get lower into the digestive tract, so you get more benefit from them, and they don't lose their potency nearly as fast or at all in the transit or while they were sitting on the shelf by the time they get into your body. So soil-based probiotics with a combo of prebiotics to feed them and postbiotics to get the extra beneficial compounds deeper into the digestive tract. Those are your top levels of, if you're looking for a supplementation of it, there's a link below. You can get more information on the ones that I created to make sure we're meeting those criteria in healthy food formats right from the soil the way God made them, so they're nice and protected. Now, let's bring this together and make some protocols out of it. Let's look at the contrast, the dyes, the anesthesia detox protocol. Now, what needs to happen when doing a test like this, ideally we start 7 days before the scan or 7 days before the anesthesia, okay? And then you'll continue it for the entire month after, so 23 days after, okay? So 7 days before, 23 days after. So you'll be doing this protocol for a month. We want to bolster glutathione in the body. Glutathione is the street sweeper that's going to be responsible for sucking up those chemicals, those toxins. We want to crank up the amount of antioxidants in the body, fruits, vegetables, berries, crank up the antioxidants. We want to look at activated charcoal in the evening, especially the day of the test, to soak up what is remaining in the digestive tract or in the bloodstream to immediately get it moved out before it enters into the cells. So activated charcoal is very important during the days right after the test. Fibers are going to help move those toxins out of the body so it doesn't just sit in there, as well as magnesium, and there's several other nutrients I could have listed that help in that process. Those are put together in our Livingood Daily Detox. So if you are facing testing, the most important supplement to put in for contrast is taking the Livingood Daily Detox. I would double the dose even on the day of the test, and then continue to take it until the box is gone. It's a 30-day supply. It has the 3 building blocks of glutathione. It has glutathione directly. It has tons of antioxidants. In the evening, that's what you take in the morning to bolster the body. In the evening, you take activated charcoals, fibers, magnesium to get that stuff out of your system. If it's been a while since you've had an MRI or a CT scan, I would recommend doing that detox, okay? Now, also along with it, because it harms the digestive tract, I would strongly consider pre, pro, and post soil-based biotics. And these can be taken before, during, and then after the scan. So again, 7 days before. During that period of time, if it is a antibiotic, or if it's just right after the scan or anesthesia, and then continue to take it after. It's a 30-day process. Okay, 30-day process that I would take those. Right after a scan, would also recommend doing a 3-day juice cleanse. You'd be focusing on green juice, whether it's a green powder like we have, which would be high in antioxidants, or just a low sugar green juice itself. That's what's in here. This is a celery juice mixed with my greens powder. You could do a low sugar green juice mixed with my greens powder, or just the greens powder by itself, or just the juices by itself for 3 days. At least, or at least one, right? You're taking in as much of this as you can. If you can abstain from food, even better, but at least be loading this in all day long for a 3-day juice cleanse, okay? After any kind of anesthesia or after any kind of scan. Important protocols. Hopefully I've made that simple. Making health simple is my goal for you, of being proactive during these times, to be eating these foods, to be doing these cleanses when we're getting these tests that we have no way around. If they are an emergent situation, you have to get them. There's a way to protect your body so it doesn't cause more damage and you can experience real health. So hopefully that made health simple. Check out more resources on the page that you can be able to dig deeper into these videos and understandings of how to do these processes and protect yourself.